Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something really intimate and frankly, profoundly painful.
Yes, it's about the cost of love, really, when you're up against long-term addiction.
Exactly. Our source material today is this incredibly raw, courageous reflection. It's like a diary entry almost.
Mhm.
And it just maps out the wreckage, left by parental alcoholism.
Yeah.
And it documents this really painful but necessary step towards self-preservation.
That journey towards setting boundaries.
Yes. So that's our mission for this deep dive, to try and unpack that moment when a whole lifetime of feeling you have this duty, it just crashes headlong into the basic need to survive yourself.
We're really analyzing the psychological tools, the mechanisms needed to set boundaries that hopefully stop that cycle. Codependency,
And
grief.
It's heavy stuff. And we want to approach this with, real solemnity and empathy. We know that for many of you listening, this isn't just theory.
No, absolutely not. This is a lived experience for so many people.
The story kicks off not with, a quiet memory, but right in the middle of the emotional fallout. A recent, really devastating confrontation.
Yeah, it's immediate.
And the quote that just anchors this whole thing, that really sets the stakes for the author, Vanina, it comes right at the start. She says, "I grew up with a father bound to drink, and that shaped my very story."
Wow. I mean, right away, it's clear she's not just mentioning alcoholism as some side plot.
No.
She's defining it as the main structure of her entire life, her history. That admission, it just carries this immense weight, doesn't it? A whole life struggling with this.
Yeah, where your identity, your family, it's all tangled up with the addiction.
Inextricably linked.
And the reason she's sharing this now, it wasn't some, slow thought process. It was sudden, explosive even.
Right.
This confrontation just forced the truth out, and it led to this really powerful image that runs through the whole piece, she writes. What happened today was not merely an argument. It was the unsealing of a box of memories that never properly closed.
That image, the unsealing, it's just such a potent psychological description, isn't it? For trauma activation.
Tell us more about that. What does that mean psychologically?
Well, when you live with unresolved trauma, especially something systemic, like growing up in that kind of environment, those memories, they don't just vanish.
Right.
They get stored away, but under enormous pressure, you kind of seal them up just to be able to function day to day.
Okay.
But then a present conflict, especially if it's with the person who was the source of the original trauma, it acts like a trigger, like a lever.
Ah.
And it just pries that box open, often violently. And all the old stuff, the fear, the helplessness, the anger, it just floods into the present moment.
So it's not just about the argument itself.
Not at all. It's the past erupting into the present.
Which explains why she feels like she's having this double confrontation. She wasn't just arguing with her father, as he is now. Her 74-year-old father, widowed, still tethered to the bottle.
Right, his current state.
No. She makes it clear she was also, at the same time, confronting the man of my childhood and adolescence, the one who carved scars upon my soul.
And that simultaneous confrontation is so important to understand. It's essentially the child part of the adult reacting to what feels like danger.
Even though he's older now, perhaps weaker.
Exactly. The 74-year-old man, maybe frail from drinking, might seem less threatening in reality. But the memory of the powerful father who inflicted those deep wounds, that is still terrifying.
I see.
Addiction often kind of stunts the parent's emotional growth too. So the dynamics, the way they relate to their child, can stay stuck in those old, volatile childhood patterns.
So the scars she mentions, they shaped how she learned to survive back then.
Precisely. Maybe people-pleasing, or being overly responsible, maybe trying to be invisible. Whatever worked. And this unsealing isn't just feeling upset. It can feel like a terrifying regression, suddenly feeling like that powerless child again.
Wow, okay. That makes a lot of sense. And it leads us right into thinking about that legacy, the psychological inheritance. We need to dig into the roots of this trauma now. Understand the home environment that shaped her story for so long, and maybe why she felt this need to break free.
Right, because understanding that environment helps us grasp the depth of the commitment, the sort of ingrained duty that Vanina is now stepping away from.
And that environment, it was defined by suffering, long-term suffering.
Enduring suffering, yeah. And that endurance itself became part of this toxic family legacy.
The timescale is just staggering. She writes that her mother endured this for 50 long years.
50 years. Just pause on that.
It's almost impossible to really comprehend 50 years living alongside active, destructive addiction, every day shaped by that uncertainty, that chaos.
And the impact on the children when a non-addicted parent endures like that. It's profound. Vanina says her mother was profoundly unhappy, and crucially, she told her daughter this.
She communicated it.
Yes, and that's a critical part of this psychological inheritance. When the mother shares her misery, but stays maybe because of codependency, maybe shame, maybe lack of options, she often, without meaning to, makes the child her emotional confidant.
Or maybe even a substitute for the support she wasn't getting from her partner.
Exactly. The child then internalizes this mission, like, my job is to fix this, to make mom happy.
That's the seed of that codependency, isn't it? Learning that love means soaking up someone else's pain.
Absolutely. And this whole context sets the stage for Vanina reaching this really necessary but devastating conclusion about her father.
Yeah.
Looking back at those 5 decades of chaos, of misery.
Yeah.
She comes to this realization that that pattern, that destruction, it just can't coexist with real love. She concludes he never truly loved her, for love does not destroy.
That sentence, it feels huge, like a massive cognitive shift.
It is monumental. Because if you grow up in a system like that, the word love often gets completely tangled up with the chaos, the fights, the apologies, the brief good times.
The drama.
Yeah, the drama. Breaking that connection, untangling love from destruction, is absolutely essential for recovery.
Can we just stay with that thought for a moment? Because it seems so central.
We really should. It underpins everything that follows, all the steps toward healing. In families hit hard by dysfunction, love often gets confused with trauma bonding.
Trauma bonding.
Yeah, the intense ups and downs. Those brief moments of peace or affection after a crisis can feel so good, they get mistaken for genuine love, and it just reinforces the whole cycle.
So realizing love does not destroy is like rejecting the family's basic operating manual.
It is. It's the adult child saying, no, that definition is wrong, and establishing a new one, a healthy one, based on things like respect and safety, not just tolerance for the unbearable.
And the atmosphere she describes growing up in, that slow poison of a loveless home, it wasn't just the drinking itself, was it?
No, the drinking was often the fuel, but the poison spread through everything else, the raised voices, infidelities, and violence.
Chaos around the addiction.
Exactly. And slow poison is such a good description because it suggests something systemic, something that eroded their sense of safety gradually, day by day.
Not necessarily big explosions all the time, but this constant underlying tension.
Precisely. That constant atmosphere of threat, even if physical violence wasn't happening every single day, it actually changes a child's brain development, their neurobiology.
How so?
They're basically stuck in fight or flight mode,
Yeah.
constantly scanning, waiting for the next bad thing to happen, hypervigilant.
That sounds exhausting.
It is utterly exhausting. It makes it hard to trust your own feelings, your own judgment. You become chronically anxious. You essentially learn that home, the place that should be safe, is unpredictable and hostile.
So connecting all that history to her current pain, her struggle now isn't just about dealing with her elderly father.
No, it's about finally actively rejecting that entire psychological inheritance, those chains as she calls them.
Right. Her mother fought that battle for 50 years and, well, she lost. Died unhappy.
And Vanina sees that. Her refusal now is recognizing that cycle of dependency and choosing consciously to break it before she gets pulled down too, before she repeats that pattern of being the rescuer who ultimately can't rescue anyone, including herself.
And often there's a trigger for that kind of shift, isn't there? From just accepting it to actively rejecting it.
Yes, often a significant event. And in this case, it seems to be her mother's death, which happened just a few months before this confrontation.
Ah, okay.
Her mother was likely the main buffer, maybe the fellow sufferer who understood. With that buffer gone, the full weight of her father's decline, his addiction, lands directly on Vanina.
Which explains why the confrontation might have felt so unbearable, so explosive.
Exactly. There's no one else sharing that load in the same way anymore.
Okay, let's shift focus then to the present-day situation. Her mother is gone, and Vanina is dealing with this very particular, very difficult kind of grief.
Yes, because the source of so much of the family's pain is still there and actually getting worse.
She describes her father's decline. It's really vivid. He's 74, and she says he drinks each day, ever earlier, ever stronger.
That escalation, earlier, stronger. It signals this isn't just maintaining an old habit. This is accelerated decline. It's getting worse fast.
And the image she uses to capture that, it's just heartbreaking. She says, it is like watching someone die by inches.
Ugh, that captures it perfectly, doesn't it? That sense of prolonged, agonizing, slow-motion death. It's not a memory she's dealing with. It's an active, daily trauma she's witnessing.
And this leads to what you called the paradox of this kind of mourning.
Yes, it's this continuous, open-ended grief, unlike, the grief after a death, which is awful, of course, but it has a finality, a cruel finality, as she says, but one that eventually allows for some kind of closure.
But this is different.
Completely different. This death by inches from addiction means the emotional work, the pain, it never stops. The loss is ongoing, the chaos continues, and the person you're grieving is still physically present, still capable of hurting you.
Which is exactly what she names it. This is a strange kind of mourning. She contrasts that finality of death with this consuming, ongoing pain, this grief in life itself.
And it's a grief society doesn't really have language or rituals for, does it?
No, not really.
The exhaustion tied up in this grief in life is just immense. Because the daughter, in this case, Vanina, is grieving so many things at once.
Like what?
She's mourning the father he could have been, maybe the sober father she glimpses occasionally, or maybe never knew. She's mourning the childhood she lost. She's mourning her own peace as an adult right now.
Oh, while still having to deal with the reality of the addicted man.
Exactly. She says, I watch him fade, yet he is still here, still calls me, still shouts at me when drunk.
That detail, still calls me, still shouts. It really highlights that the pain isn't just internal sadness, it's active, it's incoming.
It's like emotional warfare, yes.
Yeah.
She has to constantly defend against this incoming chaos. The addiction ensures she's never really allowed a moment to heal or find peace.
Which explains that feeling of utter hopelessness she expresses. That cry from the adult child who's tried everything. She admits, I do not know how to help.
And that admission, that's often the turning point. It's letting go of that rescuer role she likely carried for decades.
And right after that comes the real moment of clarity, of self-preservation. I cannot save him.
That's it, the ultimate acceptance of powerlessness. Not over her own life, importantly, but over his choices, his addiction.
And when you think about the emotional cost of this grief in life, it becomes clear why setting boundaries isn't just helpful, it's essential.
Absolutely non-negotiable for survival. She's carrying the weight of two losses, really. Her mother's actual death, and this living death, this fading of her father due to the disease.
And she saw her mother fight that same battle for 50 years.
And it didn't save him, and it didn't bring her happiness. So, by refusing to repeat that script, Vanina is choosing radical self-preservation. She understands that trying to save the addicts often just means you drown alongside them.
So, after mapping out the history, the grief, the narrative shifts. It moves from analysis to action.
Yes.
She starts talking about the proactive steps, what she calls setting the small shield. This is where she really claims her right to protect herself, prioritizing her survival over that inherited sense of duty.
And it's so important that she connects her personal decision to the much broader struggle. This isn't just her story.
Right. She explicitly links it, saying countless sons, daughters, spouses, siblings live caught in the same snare, trying to rescue the alcoholic.
That immediately makes it universal. It validates the pain and the exhaustion that so many people feel but maybe can't articulate.
And the message she delivers then is this incredibly strong refusal of that rescuing mission. She insists it is not your task, not your mission, not your sentence to save the addict.
That word, sentence, it's really powerful, isn't it?
It really stands out. Why do you think she chose that word?
By calling it a sentence, she's reframing that rescuer role. It's not a loving choice anymore, it's an imposed life term. A kind of servitude she never actually signed up for.
Ah, like she's been imprisoned by this obligation.
Exactly, imprisoned by the belief, often learned in childhood, that she somehow holds the key to fixing him, to his sobriety, which we know isn't true. Addiction is more powerful than that.
So freedom means refusing to serve that sentence any longer.
Yes, recognizing she doesn't hold the keys and walking away from the prison door.
So how does that refusal look in practice? In daily life, she gives these three really clear practical boundaries. Her small shield.
And these aren't just vague ideas, they're specific rules of engagement, designed purely to protect her inner peace from all that external chaos.
Okay, the first one. It seems like it might be the hardest to stick to speak to him only when he is sober.
Foundational. Absolutely foundational, because it ensures any real interaction happens with the actual person, not the the persona fueled by alcohol.
But what makes it so hard?
It shifts the power dynamic completely. It says, I won't engage with the disease, but the disease through the person will fight back. Boundary testing. He'll call when he's drunk, maybe angry, maybe sad, maybe pleading. And Vanina has to be ready for the guilt trips, the emotional blackmail that often comes with that.
So consistency is key.
Absolute consistency. Even one time giving in can reset the expectation that she's still available for the chaos. It takes incredible strength, respecting her own energy.
Okay. The second rule gives her the mindset for not engaging. It includes that crucial insight. Not to argue when he drinks, for there is no one at the wheel.
That phrase, no one at the wheel, it's such a powerful tool for emotional detachment, for not taking it personally.
How does that work?
Well, we need to understand a bit about the brain here. Long-term heavy drinking literally damages the prefrontal cortex. That's the part responsible for judgment, impulse control, rational thought, communication.
So when he's drunk, that part isn't functioning properly.
Exactly. The person driving the argument isn't your rational, loving parent. It's the substance driving a compromised brain. Recognizing no one is at the wheel lets Vanina step back from the car crash, metaphorically speaking, without feeling responsible for stopping it or getting hit by it.
She's not arguing with him, she's observing the disease.
Precisely. And that can prevent that trauma activation, that regression to feeling like a helpless child again. It keeps it external.
It frames the conflict as almost mechanical, medical, rather than personal.
Yeah, like the hostility is just noise from an empty vehicle, like you said. It's not aimed at her in a coherent way.
Okay, and the third rule. This one seems focused entirely inward, to guard her own peace, even if he does not understand.
This one is about releasing responsibility, lifelong responsibility, often.
Responsibility for his feelings.
Yes, for managing his reactions to her boundaries. This is incredibly hard in these family systems. Adult children of addicts often carry this deep belief that if they could just explain it better or be kinder or find the magic words, the parent would finally get it and change.
But this rule acknowledges that might never happen.
Exactly. It recognizes that sometimes the function of the addiction or the addicted person's behavior is to create chaos, to test boundaries. Guarding her peace means accepting he might never understand why she needs distance.
And that her peace is more important than his understanding or his temporary comfort or his approval.
Yes, it's a radical statement. I am not responsible for the consequences of your choices, and I'm not responsible for how you feel about my need for safety.
Setting these boundaries, making these shifts, it must bring up some really tough feelings she'd maybe push down.
Oh, undoubtedly. And she's very honest about that. She talks about the difficulty of admitting she sometimes wishes it might all end at once. These dark thoughts, as she calls them.
That sounds like something many people in that situation might feel, but be terrified to admit.
Absolutely. And empathy is so crucial here. When you're managing someone's slow, painful decline like this, that exhaustion, physical, emotional, spiritual, can reach a point where you just want the suffering, the whole drama, to stop. For everyone.
But the guilt must be immense.
Crushing, which is why her clarification is so vital. She stresses, this doesn't mean she hates her father.
Right.
It means she's just so profoundly exhausted and wants the pain to end. The endless cycle, the constant mourning. The wish is for liberation from the suffering, not malice towards him.
And acknowledging that, forgiving herself for having those thoughts, that's part of the healing too.
A huge part. For anyone battling similar feelings, it's okay to want the pain to stop.
So if we look at these boundaries, the shield, they're not about punishment.
Not at all. They're acts of profound self-love. They're survival tools. They allow Vanina to grieve the father she lost to addiction years ago without sacrificing her own present and future to his ongoing decline.
She's creating distance to stop those old scars from defining her whole life now.
Exactly. Ensuring the woman she is today isn't completely dictated by the child who was wounded back then.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's really focus on that core message. The empowerment, the radical separation she finds even in the midst of all this despair.
Yes, how she closes this chapter.
She doesn't just set boundaries, she creates a new identity for herself almost. Her armor, her mantra, her small shield for the future.
It's a definitive statement of self.
It really is. The mantra she adopts is this final declaration. I, Vani, am a daughter, not a savior. My life does not sync with my father's.
That's a lifeline. right there. It asserts her separateness from the family system's sort of predetermined destiny for her.
It's the ultimate rejection of that codependent role.
Complete rejection. It moves her from being tangled up inside his disease to being an observer of it, which sounds cold, maybe, but it isn't.
It's survival.
It is survival. It's recognizing that she can still hold love for the idea of him, maybe the man underneath the addiction, but she has to love herself more fiercely than she loves the impossible mission of trying to rescue him.
And her final message in this piece, it's aimed directly at anyone listening who finds themselves in a similar boat. It's like she's giving permission.
Yes, permission to choose yourself.
She says, "You have the right to protect yourself, to keep your distance, to refuse the inheritance of another's chains."
Yeah, right, to refuse the inheritance. This is huge.
It really is. Sharing this whole story took immense bravery. We really have to thank Vanina for letting her personal pain be our source material today.
Yeah.
Hopefully hearing her words helps listeners, maybe.
Put word to yours.
Yeah.
Find the language. Find the framework.
Exactly.
I am V.Vergara S02E06 to the English-speaking world, born in Asuncion, Paraguay. I have 3 children whom I love deeply, and this is my life. I read letters sent to mailto.vergaravanina@yahoo.com.
And that brings us towards the end of this really personal deep dive. It's been an essential look, I think, at the pain of facing the past, but also the absolute necessity of drawing lines, setting limits to break these devastating cycles of inherited pain. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe take away and reflect on, especially around this idea of separation, which can feel so counterintuitive in families. If we often define family love by, being there no matter what, selfless support, constant presence, at what point does protecting your own emotional life, that radical refusal Vanina demonstrates, refusing to sink with the wreckage, at what point does that become the ultimate act of love? Maybe not for the other person, but for the self that desperately needs to survive and eventually even thrive.
That's a powerful question to sit with. When does self-preservation become the highest form of love in these situations?
We hope Vanina's words give you some strength to think about your own situation, your own chains maybe, and perhaps find the courage to build your own shield. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.